Hey everyone, welcome back. I know this channel usually focuses on Canada, but what I came across from Australia is something that should concern everyone, no matter where you live or what passport you carry. And since we've seen a growing number of viewers tuning in from Australia, this one's especially for you. Now, before we dive in, since the report comes out of Australia, I figured it was only right to show some footage from the Gold Coast in Queensland. It's actually the only place I've visited in Australia so far, and honestly, it left a mark. Surfer's Paradise reminded me of Miami, but without the chaos, the guns, or the anger. Just sun, surf, and chill. I'm already planning a return trip next year, so to everyone watching from down under, can't wait to visit your beautiful country again. All right, let's get into it.
An Australian writer says he was refused entry to the United States after being interrogated about his views on the Israel-Gaza war, as well as articles he'd penned on recent university protests there. Reporter Alex Lewis joins us now with the details. Alex, what has happened so far?
Well, Alastair Kitchen was travelling to the US last week to visit friends. When he arrived in Los Angeles International Airport, he says he was pulled from the line at customs and taken into a back room where his phone was seized. He was then questioned about articles he had written on the Columbia University protests, pro-Palestinian demonstrations on campus last year when he was studying at the university. He says the border agent then proceeded to question him about his views on the Israel-Gaza conflict, asking him what he thought about Israel.
Wait, there was a video from US Ambassador and Village Idiot, Pete Hoekstra, who said that the border issues of being detained are just stories and not an actual issue. Seriously? This completely contradicts everything we've heard, everything people have gone through, and everything Pete himself has dodged responsibility for. But then again, Pete's a snake, so are we really surprised? In that interview, he claimed, searching devices and all of that is not a well-founded fear. We don't do that. America is a welcoming place. Sure, Pete. Tell that to the Canadians and international tourists who've had their phones taken, been interrogated for hours, or denied entry for no good reason. Another lie caught by Pete Hoekstra.
What he thought about Palestine, whether he had any Jewish friends or Muslim friends. During a second interview, Alastair says his phone was seized and passcode demanded, which he supplied to the officer. The officer then claimed to have found evidence of prior drug use on his phone. The officer put this to Alastair, who then made admissions saying that as he had previously lived in New York, where marijuana is legal, he had bought weed before in the US. However, just because it is legal in New York does not make it legal federally. And Alastair says he was told by the officer that as he had declared on his ESTA form to enter the United States that he had not used drugs, he had misrepresented himself to authorities. He was then taken into detention whilst awaiting a return flight back to Melbourne, during which time he says men and women were kept separately. Eventually, he was able to He was eventually able to put a call through to the Australian consulate, which got a message through to his mother to explain what was going on.
I'd love to sit here and say this was just an isolated incident, but we all know it's not. People from around the world have been through this exact same bullshit. Detained, interrogated, phones searched. There was an Australian woman not too long ago who also was detained. And what pisses me off the most? This clown, Mr. Hoekstra, brushing it off like it's no big deal. America is a welcoming place, he says. No, Pete, it's not. And if you believe that, you're either delusional or just straight up lying.
But even once Alastair was deported, he didn't get access to his phone for another 14 hours until he landed back in Melbourne. He says his phone was given to the head flight attendant on a Qantas flight, and she said that the phone and his passport would be returned to him upon his arrival in Australia.
Wow, this is a new level of messed up. So you're telling me that even after someone's been deported, already on a plane, already leaving, they're still not allowed to hold their own passport or phone? Seriously? You're no longer in the US. You're not under arrest. You're on a commercial flight heading home. And they're still controlling you like you're some kind of threat? Who the hell gave US immigration the right to extend their authority into international airspace? This isn't security. This is control. And it's crossing the line, literally and legally. I'm not a lawyer, but something about this feels very wrong. Tell me in the comments, how is this even allowed? Or better yet, why are we still pretending the US plays by the rules?
And now, the US Border and Protection Agency has not yet responded to the ABC's questions. Qantas has declined to comment, but it is understood that the airline staff received a sealed envelope from border authorities. Let's now take a listen to how some of that border interview unfolded, according to Alastair Kitchen.
I was asked what I thought of Israel, what I thought of Palestine, what I thought of Hamas, what I thought of the students protesting, whether I have Jewish friends, whether I have Muslim friends, how I would resolve the conflict in the Middle East. Just about everything you can imagine. I spent maybe 10 minutes discussing with this Border Patrol officer the extent to which I thought a one or two state solution was possible.
How would I resolve the conflict in the Middle East? Yeah, that was an actual question asked by a US Customs and Border Protection officer. Since when is that part of a border screening? And more importantly, why the hell would they even need to know that? What kind of answer are they expecting? A 5-point peace plan on a PowerPoint presentation at baggage claim? It's not just invasive, it's absurd. And it makes you wonder, what exactly are they looking for?
So, Alex, how have the Australian authorities responded to this story?
Foreign Affairs and Trade has confirmed it provided consular assistance to an Australian refused entry to the US, but would not comment further due to privacy reasons. Just days ago, DFAT updated its travel advice to the US to stress that entry is strict and that authorities may search travellers' personal devices. The acting Prime Minister, Richard Marles, was asked about this story early this morning. He said he would not speculate on what might be happening at the US border, but he did stress that freedom of speech is important in Australia.
Our relationship with the United States is a profoundly important one. Our alliance remains the cornerstone of our strategic policy and our foreign policy. We have freedom of speech in this country, and that's a very important part of our nation.
Australia has ramped up its travel advice to the United States several times in recent months as the Trump administration cracks down on immigration. It's also led to advice by immigration lawyers that people may want to consider taking a burner phone to the US, one without years of personal data, as border officials can and will search people's devices.
So, what did we actually learn from this report? US CBP officers will hit you with absurd questions like, how would you resolve the conflict in the Middle East? Seriously, that's not a joke. We learned that the US is now pressuring non-US airlines to withhold your passport and your phone until you land in your home country. Apparently, the US thinks it has jurisdiction over international airspace now. And yeah, Pete Hoekstra is still a lying sack of Okay, that last one we already knew. But the real takeaway here is this. No matter how many Americans tell you everything's fine, it's not. Things have changed. And whether it's 1 in 10 or 1 in 50, you never know when you'll be the one pulled in for secondary. To the Australian who went through this, I'm sorry you had to experience it. And to my viewers in Australia, I'd seriously think twice before booking anything to the US after hearing this. Let me know what you think in the comments. Were you surprised by any of this? And if this video helped shed some light, hit like and subscribe so more people can see what's really going on. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.